This led me from culturing cells from the foreskin, a job that a guy once told me sounded more like a chat-up line than a PhD. Classy boys. Into culturing stem cells that have been extracted from the hip joint, which is widely acknowledged to be the funkiest site in the body.
Wait.
Cheers. So stem cells are soaked out of these juicy chunks of marrow-bone jelly, which is essentially the human equivalent of pedigree chum. And because stem cells are so sensitive to stimuli, they can be persuaded to form bone cells when we culture them in these nanostructured surfaces. And to give you some idea of what's going on there, you know, how the cells interact with these surfaces, if you can picture a really drunken garden gnome staggering over the protruding lumps in a discarded egg box and casting his rod about in the hope of poking something, then that gives you some idea of what's going on. But, you know, even if that tells you absolutely nothing about how stem cells interact with nanosurfaces for the improvement of hip replacements, still a pretty classy metaphor. So, given the sensitivity of cells to stimuli, I was once asked what sort of music I thought cells would like best. And, you know, I thought about this. I took this suppurating strand of mental gristle and pushed it around the dinner plate of my brain. Classical, I decided, because they're cultured. I'm so happy you're laughing right now because this got absolutely zip at the time. It was more of a Dr. Evil sort of moment, you know. Such flippancy would not be tolerated. I just wanted some frickin' cells with some frickin' banging tunes attached to their frickin' membranes. Okay, no problem. So the words nano and stem cell are considered sexy science at the moment. And I bet that short skirt thing would fit in pretty well into that category too. But I've always been a bit amused by the concept of sexy science. It just makes me think of researchers, you know, sprawled artistically or even scientifically over benches or wedged attractively inside fumes with carefully placed bits of equipment and tubes of dermabonds to cover their intellectual property and prevent accidental public disclosure of data. It's a bit like we're heading towards the scientific equivalent of those naked charity calendars. Dear me. But anyway, I've got my sexy hipster project, you know. I also work with a strong, silent character named Titanium. He's a pretty hunky metal, sandwiched somewhere in the periodic table between the element of surprise and his more volatile cousin, the element of danger. Danger's pretty popular with the ladies. Not so much Titanium though. Poor guy. He seems a bit standoffish to stem cells. You know, he's all set, he's all kitted out as a hip prosthesis. He's all set to rock the party when he gets implanted into a patient. He cruises up there, all gleaming with metallic uber bling and bodily fluids. But they don't care. He tries his best chat-up lines on them. You're so hip, darling. Really? That is just prosthetic. So yeah, I mean, he does come across as a bit of a tool. But he was actually kind of hoping to meet someone special. Maybe a nice, naive cell that he could fall in love with and one day marry. I love these ways, cheers. Or at least a cell that would would be prepared to bone. Maybe a stem cell and a rebound that would differentiate with a bit of sweet talk and a cheeky hint of bone morphogenic protein. But in truth, he knows that the effects of BMP wear off quickly and he just wouldn't really feel right about it. So that's where we stride in like Shakespeare's Oberon. Ill met by moonlight, proud Titania. We cast some sort of spell on him, and it leads to the growth of these amazing little nanostructures. And suddenly the cells frickin' love him in his sexy new ripped body. There's some genes get pretty turned on, there's some serious induction of bone involving stiffening of the extracellular matrix and a certain exposure of calcified nodules. Somebody should seriously tell him to get to a doctor right now. But anyway, so orthopaedic surgeons whack these implants in with some pretty hefty nails and such like. And this gave me an idea for a new orthopaedic journal called Screw It. And scientists and surgeons fortunately get along quite well together because we share quite a lot of overlapping interests. You know, there's medical advancement, formaldehyde, but most importantly of all, quoting He-Man.
Hi there.
This latter commonality was particularly important recently when we were analysing some pictures of cells that had been imaged in black and white. And I just had to shout, "By the power of grayscale!" I bet Skeletor would make a great source of bone marrow too. I'd tap that. Loved it.